a king who spoke little English, but spoke the language of war, a warrior whose courage was legendary, but whose throne was rarely occupied. Richard the Lionheart, a name that echoes through time as one of the greatest warrior kings in history. But was he a noble crusader, or just another warlord? This is his story, Richard's early life. Born in 1157, Richard was never meant to be just another prince. He was the third son of King Henry II and Eleanor of Aquitaine, a woman as fierce as she was powerful. From his mother, Richard inherited ambition. From his father, the burden of ruling an empire stretching from England to France. But Richard didn't dream of ruling. He dreamed of battle. While still a teenager, Richard fought rebellions, crushed enemies, and earned a reputation for bravery. But his true test was yet to come. The call to the Crusades. In 1187, the world changed. Jerusalem, the holiest city of Christendom, fell to Saladin, the great Muslim leader. Europe was in shock, and Pope Gregory VIII called for war, the Third Crusade. Richard had one purpose now, not ruling, not governing, just war. He emptied England's treasury, raised an army, and swore an oath. He would reclaim the Holy Land or die trying. But Richard was not alone. King Philip of France and Emperor Frederick Barbarossa also marched for war. 3 kings, 1 crusade, but only one would leave a legend. Richard in the Holy Land. Richard arrived in the Holy Land not as a diplomat, but as a warrior. He led his men into battle at Acre, where disease and starvation had crippled both sides. After months of fighting, the city fell. But what happened next would define Richard's reputation. Saladin delayed negotiations. Richard's patience ran out. In a ruthless display of power, he ordered the execution of nearly 3,000 prisoners. Mercy was not the way of the Lionheart. The Battle of Arsuf. Saladin was not just a warrior, he was a master of strategy. He harassed Richard's forces for weeks, striking at their supply lines, testing their patience. On September 7th, 1191, at Arsuf, Richard had enough. The Lionheart unleashed his full might. The clash of steel, the cries of warriors, the battlefield became a storm of blood and dust. For the first time, Saladin's army was defeated in open battle. Richard had proven himself, but the war was far from over. The road to Jerusalem. With each victory, Richard grew closer to his prize, Jerusalem. But war is not just won with swords, but with strategy. Richard's army was stretched thin. He knew taking Jerusalem was possible, but holding it, impossible. He made the hardest choice of his life. He turned back. Despite their rivalry, Richard and Saladin had developed mutual respect. In 1192, they agreed to a truce. Jerusalem would remain under Muslim control, but Christian pilgrims could visit freely. The war was over. Richard's return and final battles. Richard had won glory, but he lost something greater, his throne. While he was away, his own brother John conspired against him. On his way home, Richard was captured by the Holy Roman Emperor and held for ransom. His people paid a king's fortune to bring him back. But the warrior king never found peace. Instead of ruling, he went back to war, this time in France. In 1199, while besieging a castle, Richard was struck by a crossbow bolt. The Lionheart had fought his last battle. Even in death, he remained a warrior. His heart was buried in Normandy, his body in Anjou, and his legend in history. The legacy of Richard the Lionheart. Richard the Lionheart was a warrior first, a king second. He spent less than 6 months of his reign in England, yet his legend became larger than life. Was he a hero, a conqueror, a reckless king? The truth lies somewhere in between. What do you think? Was Richard the Lionheart the greatest crusader? king, or just another ruler lost to time? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more epic stories from history.